Hello, everybody. My name is Aurika Savickaite. I'm a co-founder of helmet-based-ventilation.com. I'm very happy to have here with me Dr. Yasser Khan, and he and his brother and his team made a wonderful device. It is a portable BiPAP CPAP machine that is not expensive to produce and can be used for the helmet non-invasive ventilation. So, Dr. Khan, can you tell me more about the story, how that mission started, and how you and your brothers started to work on this piece of machine?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me. So the project actually started when we saw the dire need of ventilation in low-resource countries like Bangladesh. At the beginning, we were thinking, should we make a invasive ventilator or non-invasive ventilator? We reached out to doctors in Bangladesh, and the feedback we got is invasive ventilation will be really difficult because we don't have enough ICUs, and also we don't have the trained medical professionals to run the ICUs. So that's why we started focusing on non-invasive ventilation. And it was essentially a volunteer project, and we tried to involve students and all the researchers here in the Bay Area. So in the team, we have many engineers who are from Bangladesh and who are now working at Stanford and Berkeley. And we started looking into how can we create a low-cost solution, and that can be deployed in a country where we don't have enough medical resource. And then we started working on the CPAP, BiPAP type solution. So the idea here is in the CPAP, BiPAP machine, you don't need a compressed air source. So in most of the invasive ventilator, you will need a air source that is high pressure, high flow from the wall. And that is available to most of the countries, developed countries. And in CPAP, BiPAP, you use a blower. So essentially you have the source within the unit. And that's one of the biggest benefit of having this solution. And another thing is we needed to make something which is low cost, portable, and easy to use. These are extremely important factors because if it's expensive, we cannot afford it. If it's hard to use, we cannot give it to doctors who aren't ICU trained. And also, another aspect is how can we deploy this, let's say, in many hospitals, so it needs to be portable. Having all these consideration in mind, we started designing a low-cost ventilator. It took us roughly 6 weeks and to make this, we had to go through 3 design rounds, which is fast in 3 weeks. Basically, we were working around the clock, testing out different blowers, different motors, and within 6 weeks, we were able to come to a solution that meets the standard of CPAP. And I can show you the unit right now. It's a quite small unit, and here you have the DC blower that what I was talking about. This compresses the air, and then here you have the controller, and everything is controlled using a microcontroller on the back. And for easy use, we have a touch screen display. You can just set up the machine and run it. So once we designed this, came to another big challenge is CPAP and BiPAP, they use high pressure. And when you use this in patients with COVID, you essentially aerosolize the virus. And we got stuck for a while finding a solution how we can use non-invasive ventilation for COVID patient without aerosolizing the virus or without making the whole unit infected with the virus. So at that time, we found that helmet-based ventilation is a good option because In that one, instead of a face mask, you use a helmet. And once you do ventilation with the helmet, the aerosols get contained within the helmet. So, and once we have everything in place, we again called to doctors in Bangladesh. We had a phone call, and then at the beginning we proposed that we can use CPAP and BiPAP, and they weren't that excited because they were aware of the issue of aerosolation. But once we proposed that, okay, we have a way where we can use these machines and also contain the virus, and then they became super excited. They started telling us that we need this immediately. And right now we are in I would say, phase one, ending of phase one, where we made a batch of devices. We tested those, and we also sent out those to Bangladesh. We have a medical team over there. They are going to test the units, and once we have feedback from them, then we will plan the next step.
Yeah, this is amazing, and I really, amazed to see this machine being so small. So portable is very important for the ambulating patients from one place to another hospital, and this makes safer transport not just for the patient but also for the healthcare providers. Now, you did try your machine with different helmets, right? Did you notice any benefits, any difference based on the helmet model?
One thing we saw is the way you put it on. It makes, let's say, if it's a new patient and during the first step, you need to explain to the person that you're going to put something on, and if it's a easy way to put it on, the patient doesn't get scared. Otherwise, it's quite tricky, because if these are patients, and when they see something like this, you have to make sure that it's comfortable and easy to put on. And as for the engineering specs, the minimum flow rate, something like 60 liters per minute, it will remain constant because it depends on the volume of the helmet. Roughly 18 to 20 liters, the volume. And if you can maintain the same flow rate, from the engineering side, they are similar. But the comfort is something different. It's like how you feed the patient and how you give the patient water and how easy it is to put on the helmet and take it off. These will make the difference in terms of usability, but from the engineering and clinical side, I think the rest is similar, because you essentially have a fixed volume, and then the flow rate is something you're controlling using the unit. So the design aspects should focus more on the comfort option.
Yeah, and I totally agree with you, because the patient access ports are very useful for the non-invasive ventilation here, where comparing to the face mask, you have to take it off the patient and interrupt that therapy, where with the helmet, the non-invasive ventilation is not interrupted. And now your unit can deliver the flow up to 180 liters per minute. This is amazing. This is the luxury like that have only, large facilities, big hospitals, and in underdeveloped countries, not many cities even have these capabilities. So this is a life-saving machine, and you already starting the patient trials in Bangladesh. So you work with a physician. So tell me a little bit more about that. When do you expect to have some data, and when it can be used safely in Bangladesh?
Yeah, so we started talking to doctors even before initiating the project, and they were following our updates. And once we have finished the first version, we sent out 4 units with the helmets to doctors in Bangladesh. Right now, they have it in Dhaka Medical College, which is a premier medical institution. It's also a teaching hospital, and they do research. They have roughly 2,600 beds, so it's a big hospital, and they have the capability of testing these units. We are working closely with the medical team over there, and we are establishing a protocol. So basically, for COVID patients, they first try with the nasal cannula and then face mask. And if you don't reach to a SpO2, that's 94%. And then you are put on this non-invasive ventilation. So we are trying to fine-tune the protocol which patients will get and how we will run these machines. And we are almost finalizing those, and hopefully by a week or two, because they already have the units in Bangladesh, I think we will start getting the community results. And depending on that, we will improve our design. So you mentioned one important thing regarding the flow. So these are some technical challenges we released in different countries. In Bangladesh, they have oxygen cylinders rather than central oxygen lines in most of the hospitals, and those provide you 50 liters per minute oxygen flow. So these are quite low flow machines, and we are trying to use those resources. So our design is essentially how we use the local resources maximize that for the patient's benefit. These will be a work in progress. In the next month, we will hopefully start reporting some numbers, and that will guide other researchers to come with even better options.
Yeah, this is amazing. And also you do work on lowering the price for the unit. You did mention before that it is about $200 per unit, and your goal is to minimize that price.
Yeah, so $200 is when a small research lab make the device. Mm-hmm. And if you want to go to a high volume production, that will reduce the cost of the parts. And we are also thinking about how can we improve the design while minimizing the cost. So in the next version, we are going to use even higher grade devices, let's say electronics, and try to reduce the cost. And we are also talking to manufacturers in the US, also in other countries. And hopefully, once the design is validated by the doctors, one of the manufacturer can take the design and start making this in bulk. That will actually reduce the cost, and that's our plan.
So you're planning to share your design with Bangladesh, with the government in Bangladesh, so we can produce the units there. Are you planning to share design with other underdeveloped countries?
Yes. So the idea is we won't share it now before it gets validated, because if we share it now, there will be other challenges because it's going to be everywhere, and people will start playing around, and that's not safe since it's a medical device. Once we know exactly the specs and it's validated on patient, we will open up the design.
Are you planning to apply for the FDA approval for that unit to be used here?
There is a ventilator initiative from Stanford. We are exploring both invasive and non-invasive ventilation. And this is one of the designs of Stanford that go through the clearance process. And we have plans because our invasive ventilation project that is already going through FDA clearance and in the pipeline.
That's wonderful news, because based on my experience when I talk with other helmet manufacturers in other countries, the biggest obstacle is actually approval from the government to use that device. And most of these countries, for example, like in South America, a lot of countries are asking for the devices that are approved by FDA, and that way, that process for the approval of this device in their country can be expedited. So it is wonderful that you are doing this here too. And when you get that approval, I can't wait to see it and share it with the rest of the world. Now, we did talk a lot about Bangladesh. Can you tell me your background and how are you connected with Bangladesh?
Oh, yeah, sure. I am originally from Bangladesh. I came to the US for my undergrad, and then I actually went to Saudi Arabia for my master's, and then again back for my PhD, and now I'm doing my postdoc. And the connection is essentially when we saw the need. I know friends from grad school, and I basically reached out to everyone saying that either help us in terms of the technical work or the logistics or financially, and everyone chipped. So every email I sent, I got a yes response back, and this is like a community effort. It's not just me or one team here. It's essentially everyone. Whenever we ask for help, even with the logistics, let's say we shipped unit to Bangladesh, and it was difficult to get the units out through customs and other paperwork. We reached out to friends, and then they helped clear these units and get this to the hospital. So I would say this is a all hands on deck project, and everyone is chipping in. This cause it's just not for Bangladesh, because once we go through the whole thing, we can share our story, share our design. The other countries can also pick that up. So that will help all the low risk countries, not just Bangladesh.
Yeah, and I want to agree with you. And I heard many stories from other countries where, like you said, it takes a village,
Yeah, exactly.
to reach the good results and expedite all the processes that would take months. So this is amazing that you got connected with your friends back in Bangladesh. So you created a great community, and this mission, it's going to bring great results and save some lives. So right now, what is the situation in Bangladesh? Do you guys have a lot of cases, and how the clinicians are dealing with it?
It's actually quite challenging in Bangladesh because we didn't expect the cases to surge much, and now it's surging really fast. And we have resources in the capital, but the problem is in city they don't have resources. One example is getting access to high flow oxygen. That is limited only to a few hospitals. And if the whole city is affected and you have oxygen in all the hospitals and only a few hospitals has that, that makes the challenge really hard. And also, there are doctors who are overworked, and it's not something easy to deal with. You have to wear PPE and then treat patient for 12 hours and then wait and then come back to a shift. And it's quite daunting for the whole country. And another aspect is the resource problem, lack of medical equipments, lack of PPE. So the government is trying. The problem is the whole world is suffering. Usually, in this kind of situation, other countries step up and provide resources to low resource countries. Since the whole world is suffering right now, it's hard to mobilize help from other countries to help countries in need. And it's a huge challenge. I think it's the biggest challenge in our lifetime.
Yes, I agree. And also all the clinicians, they we get so exhausted right now, and this adds up to everything that's happening with all the lack of supplies. Now I have another question. When we talk about clinicians, as a ICU nurse, I really like the machine to talk with me. So do you have any alarms implemented in the machine, and what are they, and are you planning to add something else?
Yeah, that's a great question. So one of the feedback we got initially is if there's a disconnect, we need to know. And that's what we did. I have a video, I can share that with you. Essentially, if you have a disconnect, there's a alarm that goes off, and you can, it's a loud alarm, so you will definitely hear it. And that's the checking mechanism right now we have. If there's a disconnect, you will get an alarm. And we tested this, it works, and it will get a field tested also.
Also, you want to make sure that you have, and if there are actually accessories that you can add to your system, the helmet-based ventilation system in your machine that will give you that, like a pressure relief valve, or valves that open up when you don't have that air supply. So it's great, and now I would like to see that unit myself when it's possible. I would like to see it and share it with my friends here at the University of Chicago Hospital. And do you have anything else to add to this interview or ask? And maybe, we can help you with this project.
Yeah. So I think after looking for solutions for COVID, and what we came down to is non-invasive ventilation is the most effective way in low resource countries. And having the helmets and also these machines will help a lot. What we need is clinical feedback from doctors, because engineers can design brilliant things, but if those don't get used, what's the point of making those? And we need to get feedback from clinicians and also patient to see how this machine perform. And I think it will be a community effort. It's going to be a consortium where everyone chips in and then provides us feedback on what to work on, what to develop on, and what kind of settings should we use, what patients should we use this device, because this is still in research phase, and having a clear guideline will help the doctors in other countries. They will just follow a validated protocol. Yeah.
That's great. This is anyone who's watching this video, reading this interview. I want to ask you to share this with your friends, physicians, and in any country. It doesn't have to be in the US. And we need that data. We need the feedback from the clinicians at the bedside. We need feedback from the patients, because it will improve the design. It will help to make the best BiPAP, CPAP machine that is safe to use. And I'm glad that you're already doing it, but it will expedite the process if we have more volunteers here working and helping you. Well, thank you so much, and I'm so happy that actually your brother, also Yasser Khan, contacted me. So this is how I learned about your project, and it was about, I believe, 2 months ago or a month ago, and I'm happy to have you here, and thank you for sharing your story, and I can't wait for these approvals and these trials to be done and see the data and have your unit used in other countries.
Yeah, I would also love to thank you, because the work you're using, if we didn't find your website, it will be like we would have gone through a longer development time to figure out the solution. And this is a unique solution that applies to low resource countries. And with the website and then all the guides you have, that actually expedited our development process. And for that, I would really like to thank you, and please continue working on this non-invasive ventilation front.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the compliments, and I just want to let you know all that we're updating the website on a weekly basis with the new interviews, with protocols, and you have all these free access that you can share, that you can use to learn how to use it, how to use the helmet-based ventilation and succeed. Thank you and have a great day.